that we might get a clear understanding, I'm just going to ask you, Sister Paul, to back up and pull up verse 16. 1 John chapter 2, verse 16. And I'll read that and break it down right quick so we can quickly get to where we need to go. Keep in mind now that John has laid out the groundwork, he now shares with us the reasons why a believer should not love the world. In verse 16, it simply reads, "For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but of the world." And I laid all of that out for you. We walked through the first phrase of the verse, and we were at the first area of danger, which happens to be the lust of the flesh. I took you and walked you through what the word flesh meant and the scriptures that you should have. The last big area we looked at was taken out of James chapter 1, where we walked through verses 13 down to 16, and we talked about uncontrolled desires. And then we ended on Romans chapter 1, verse 24, Colossians 3 and 5, 2 Timothy 2:22, and Titus 3 and 3. I'm still dealing with lust of the flesh. And as we continue, what I want to do right now is kind of pin our thoughts on just the word lust. And I have my reasons why, because throughout the verse, John uses it 3 times. So what I want to make sure we do tonight is avoid having our minds to go in a sexual connotation with the word. I'm going to share with you that it has a much deeper meaning than just a sexual desire, and it's scriptural, okay? In the book of Numbers, chapter 11, you don't have to write anything down right now, but it's only going to be one verse we're going to focus on. But when the children of Israel were traveling and left Egypt under the leadership of Moses, they had gotten to a point that they complained, they grumbled. And their complaint was of such depth that they were not just complaining. What ended up happening, they were mentally comparing where they were dealing with the manna and what they had received in Egypt. Okay? And as a result of that, God turns around and they whine, they complain, even Moses himself. And God gave unto Moses some guidelines, 70 individuals. And the Bible declares that 2 of those disobeyed, and at the same time, God gave them meat and poured them out quail. But the point was they had complaining spirits. And as a result of that, verse 34 tells us a very powerful message as it relates to what God ended up doing toward them because of their complaining, okay? I'll read just verse 34. I'm not interested in the whole story. We don't have that kind of time. So it simply reads, so he called the name of that place, which happens to be Kibroth Hattaravah, okay? And it simply means graves of lust. And what it ended up being, they were lusting for things they once had that they didn't have where they were. And I wanted that for us to be able to clearly understand that, because we're going to spend a few minutes in that area. Because most of the time when we hear the word lust, we simply think of sexual issues, and that's not true. There are a number of it. You can have a greedy desire for knowledge if it's being dealt with the wrong way. A craving for sports, mall shopping. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? The list goes on and on and on. What we must understand is what John wants us to grasp is we can't afford to allow our flesh to dictate things we should not be doing. Okay? This desire can lead us in some dangerous categories or situations. Most people, most Christians, don't deal with their flesh. Most Christians deal with other folks' flesh. I'm just being just straight out honest. We can team up and talk about somebody, but we won't sit down and discipline or look at ourselves. Okay? I want you to hear this one statement. Listen to this. When you become preoccupied with something until it affects your perspective on everything else, you have moved from desire to lust. Let me say that again. When you become preoccupied with something until it affects your perspective on everything else, you have moved from desire to lust. Here's the deal. I'm backing up to Numbers. They felt that they could not settle for the manna because they compared the manna to the so-called fine food they got in Egypt. Everybody with me? We do the same thing. We as believers, you have to be so careful. And please understand now, I don't know anything about y'all's business. I only teach on me. I had a lust problem, and it was with the purchase of buying clothes. Okay? That was my thing. Okay? So I sought to be best dressed in high school, best dressed in college, and God let me. Y'all have to understand, see, he had his hands on me, but he let me be stupid for a minute. Okay? He let me be stupid for a minute. I didn't own a pair of jeans. I don't think y'all hear me. I didn't own jeans. Okay? You barely would catch me in a pair of tennis shoes. I was strictly Stacey Adams, Sansa belts. Okay? So he let me be stupid for a minute until I started realizing that it wasn't so much that I was committing, I had the wrong idea. It was pushing me further away from him because my attitude was I had to look a certain way. I had to. You know, that was just it. My socks had to match. If I had a pair of brown pants, I had to wear a brown belt. Okay? I wouldn't dare put on Fruit of Looms. No. I had to wear silk. Yeah. And this button here was unbuttoned so that the women can see that I had on a colored shirt that matched the stripe in my shirt. I mean, that was how important dressing was. That's what he's dealing with, even with them. So I don't really need anybody to tell me much. I've been there. And to grace the pulpit like this now, oh, I've come a long ways. Okay? But I had to hear him say, you too far gone. So he just let me keep going and realize that after a while, and let me show you how he got me straight. He got me to a point where I couldn't afford to buy it. And when you can't afford to buy it, you can't wear it. All right. Second thing, let's back up. I don't know if I highlighted this, Sister Paul. Did I highlight lust can lead to bad decision making? Did I? Okay. Y'all write that in your notes. Lust can lead to bad decision making. In the book of Judges, chapter 16, Samson was deceived by Delilah. Okay? But I'm going to read something to help us understand how we can get so caught up in the spirit of lust that we don't see what we need to see. The word says, then she said to him, how can you say, I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have not told me where your great strength lies. Watch this. And it came to pass when she what? Pestered him when she did what? Daily with her what? Words, and pressed him so that his soul was what? Vexed to death. Watch this now. That he told her all his heart and said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a what? Nazarite to God from my what? Mother's womb. If I am shaven, then my strength will leave me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. Now listen to me. He had the strength to strangle a lion, but he couldn't shake off the power of Delilah. Does everybody hear me? See, the thing we got to understand is lust will make you make wrong decisions. And I just need you to hear me right quick. I've been at this for 40-some years, and when people become overconsumed and they call it love, okay? If something should happen to the person, they die with them. Because they've taken love to a whole nother level. See, it'll make you make bad decisions. Okay? You need to ask yourself the question before you step out to say I do, am I really in love? Or are you caught up in lust? Am I making sense to you all? Do y'all? Samson had all this strength, but not enough strength to shake off the power of that woman. And y'all, I hope y'all understanding what I'm saying. Do you not get it? See, it'll make you make wrong decisions. Not love, lust. Listen to this. How can you keep your desire for love and sexual pleasure from deceiving you? Now, that's a question people need to ask themselves. Okay? Lust. The situation in Atlanta with the young college girl, you have to ask yourself, well, it couldn't have been love, okay? But lust will make you make wrong decisions. Lordy. Second major point. I missed telling you to highlight the type this, but I'll just say it, Sister Paul. Listen to this. Because most of the time we spend with each other, and the time that most folks spend with each other, husband and wife, is not sexual. But they don't know each other. Are you hearing me? They don't know each other. See, the issue is we don't know sometimes as believers the power of lust. It just, people do stupid stuff and say, I'm in love. You're not in love. If you got the kill, you ain't in love. Matthew chapter 5, verse 28 teaches us, listen to this, lust itself is a sinful behavior. Listen to what the word says. But I say to you that whoever, now listen to Jesus, whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with his heart, with her in his what? Heart. Just to do what? Look. So let's back up. A statement of that nature will make you not get up and say, I'm sin free. See, nobody can read what's on your mind, but it ain't always good. I don't care who you are. You can be speaking in tongues. Everything on in your mind. I do not care who we are. We cannot pretend the mind is powerful. But listen to what Jesus said. You can be sitting, minding your own business, but you can have some thoughts in your mind. And don't sit up here all holier than thou and act like you ain't sat there and looked at somebody and went, wow. I don't care who you are. You've done it. And deep down within, this is the struggle all of us face as believers. Okay? Because I'm going to take it a different, a step further tonight. Okay? To help us to understand this up here is powerful. Because he says, just to look at her. Well, see, can't nobody say, you don't know what I'm looking. No. You missed the whole boat. It ain't really you trying to prove whether you looking like that. You know in your own spirit. But we got a problem with that verse, and I'm going to go a little step further. I'm going to show you, and wait till I get to it. Listen to what he said, but I say to you that whoever looks at the woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And I'm way ahead of where I want to go tonight, but I might as well plant the seed so you can think about it. So since I've already committed the idea, you got many folks that might well go ahead and do it. Now we're going to look at that because that's not the case at all, okay? Exodus chapter 20, verse 14. That verse teaches us right up front that it is incorrect, wrong, sinful for a person to have another person that's not their husband or their wife. All of us been there. You shall not commit what? But with Jesus, now listen to what Jesus just said. With Jesus, he goes deeper than just the act. He says the very desire. Now you see what, and this is why when people get up and they got all these things that they got to say and all this and act like that bothers me, because none of us in here are so holy. We're growing, okay? We're in the process of becoming, but all of us, I don't care who we are, nobody up in here is exempt. Why? Because in your mind up here, God knows what's there. Now you can sit and lie and say, you don't know what's in my mind. No, I don't. But I can help you out. If your mind is a part of your flesh, you've thought some things. Boy, y'all ain't gonna say nothing to me tonight. Listen to this. Jesus emphasized that if the act is wrong, then so is the intention. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? Huh? See, look, if the act is wrong, so is your intention. See, I can't have a wrong what? Act and a right intention. Another major point. Lust is often used as an excuse to further sin. Let me say that again. Lust is often used as an excuse to further sin. Now, listen to this. Some people believe if I've already thought it in my mind, then I should have just went ahead and did. No. That would not work at all. Acting on sinful desires is harmful in a number of ways. Number one, it causes people to excuse sin rather than stop sinning. You with me? What they're doing is going back to Jesus' statement. So he says, if I've already committed adultery in my desire, well, I might as well go ahead and rape her. Now you see where the problem lies. You don't carry out what's in your mind. Boy, y'all looking at me. I can always tell when the subject matter is kind of iffy. Number two, it can destroy a marriage. Okay? Because now just listen to me. I'm just throwing out hypothetical things for us to think about. If the woman says to him, you lusting over her, and you already sinning. You just Wrong, you wrong. And then he turns around and said, well, since you know I'm sinning, then I'm just going to go ahead and satisfy you and be with her. Do you hear does everybody, because I'm looking at wrinkles in the forehead, and when y'all hear these things, see, that's like you walking past the bank and your mind says, I need some money out of there. I'm broke. Do you go into the bank and rob it? No. No, you don't. You didn't. It's funny. We pick the areas we want to carry out. The areas we don't want to deal with, we let them go. This is just very practical teaching tonight. Third thing, it is deliberate rebellion against God's word, which means now if I got the thought, how many of y'all just been walking? Look at somebody and the person has made you angry and you had some very evil thoughts about that person or things you wanted to do. You didn't do it, but you thought about it. You definitely thought about it. Okay? But you have to get a grip on not carrying out what's in your mind. So when John says the lust of the flesh, that's a powerful statement. And got to keep in mind, everybody in here is working on it. Okay? At the same time, it always hurts someone else in addition to yourself. You got me? It always, because if you're going to accuse me, then I might as well. Come on now. You can't operate like that. Okay? Listen to this. Sinful action is more dangerous than sinful desire. Let me stay right there. Sinful what? Action is more dangerous than sinful desire. And that is why desires should not be acted out. Now you got me? So you got to be very careful with that. Okay? Because what I don't want to see us do is get our actions out of control. See, it's bad enough to have to just deal with your desires. So, because the mind can become the devil's playground. And this is how Christians stoop to the level of allowing the enemy to come at them. You curse me, I'm going to get you back. See, what it is, I thought about something, but then now my action's going to prove that I'm going to carry out my thoughts. Does everybody? Okay. So when somebody does us wrong, somebody curses us or talks about, we don't have to react. Okay? And there are moments you have to speak to yourself with authority. Shut up, you. You know what you thinking ain't right. You got to speak to you, because if you don't, what you think you will eventually do. Whew. I sure hope y'all like me after this. Listen to this. The one thing that we must keep in mind is this one thought. Put it up there, Sister Paul. If sinful desires are left unchecked, then wrong desires will result in wrong motives. Got me? You gotta know how to check yourself. Okay? See, when the desires don't, you don't face them. You keep letting Satan plant the seed in your spirit, you end up doing wrong. Okay? One of the greatest lessons that I've had to learn as a Christian, I learned under being a diabetic. It's funny. I keep telling y'all, sometimes what you desire for God to do, you got to look at things he teaches you. That's just some stuff I just thought I could never, ever do. I had to have it. But man, that to turn down a Coke, a cold Coke, and it's 90-degree weather, cold, I'm talking about that kind of when you burp, it burns your nose for a second. That's a good Coke. Y'all know what I'm talking about? To my knowledge, I haven't had a Coke or Pepsi or grape or orange in probably, I know, over 10, when you say 10 years, Cheryl? Yeah, when last time we went to Florida some years back. That's when I made up my mind that I wasn't going to touch it. Okay? And what made me do that was my own body. See, it's a funny thing. Pain and hurting will make you do stuff. You understand? Okay. Let's conclude then. We can conclude that the lust of the flesh is the lowest and refers to the natural physical appetites. Okay? What have you been hungry for lately? I'm just teaching practical stuff, okay? It is the flesh of our physical nature. This right here will get you in trouble. Most of us sitting there right now, just do stuff sometimes, you know you're completely out of order. But when your flesh gets out of control, it's hard to get it under subjection. Because you have allowed yourself to be led by your flesh. Now, I'm going to go somewhere, and y'all going to frown. But I want you to pray for me. You got Christians, say they're Christians, and they worship based on their flesh. Okay? When John says lust of the flesh, I'm talking about people who have to have a certain attire, people who have to have a certain feeling, people who have to have a certain amount of emotional stamina in a worship setting to say they have worshiped. And listen to me good. I don't care how high you jump. I don't care how loud you scream. I don't care what you do. The bottom line is how you treat other folk. Got me? So John in the text says, lust of the what? Flesh. Now let's go to number 2. Lust of the eyes. Now, John sort of switches. Stay with me. Now he zeroes in on the senses of a person. The organ called the eye. Okay? Listen to this. This speaks of desires that are triggered or stimulated by the human eye. It's simple. He says, now your problem is what you see. Stay with me. But what you see is born from your flesh. You got me? It's very practical in what John presents. I'm going to walk through a couple of scriptures. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 12. The eye itself is neutral. The eye itself is all right. It's what you do with the eye. So you go home tonight talking about I'm going to pluck it out. You got it all wrong. Listen, the hearing ear and the seeing eye, the Lord has made them both. So already up front, we must understand there's absolutely nothing wrong with what? The eye. Couple of more. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, verse 7. Truly the light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to behold the sun. It's awesome to be able to wake up in the morning and just view God's creation. Okay? Psalm 8, verses 3 and 4. Listen to this. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have ordained, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you visit him? Once again, I'm just showing you verses to help us to understand ain't nothing wrong with the eye. Psalm 19, verse 1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his what? Handiwork. Psalm 33, verse 5. He loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord. Now keep in mind, every verse I'm showing you has something to do with us having the ability to be able to see the works of the Lord. Just imagine when we wake up and we see the beauty of God's creation. It'll make you realize God got to be real. Because you ain't read nowhere in no book somebody sat down and did anything other than the word of God. Couple of more. Psalm 104, verse 24. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 26. Lift up your eyes on high and see who has created these things, who brings out their host by number, who calls them all by name, by the greatness of his might and the strength of his power. Not one is missing. Last one, Romans chapter 1, verse 20. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead. Now, I've given you all them scriptures just to show you now that there's nothing wrong with your. Okay, so we can't walk around and say, well, if the Lord hadn't given me these eyes, I wouldn't have been able to look at nothing to see. Now, that's the only reason I stumbled. Nope. The eyes are neutral. But here's the problem. If the eyes are neutral, then the person is responsible for the light that they let into their eyesight that sheds light on the negative things of the world. Now you see where the problem kicks in. Does everybody understand? So we're going to take a moment and walk through a couple of things that should actually help us better understand how to deal with our eyes. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 27, verse 20. Watch the word. Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. That means the more you see, the more you want. Woo! Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 8. All things are full of labor. Man cannot express it. The eye, watch this now, the eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. Because there are moments what you see, you say to yourself, gotta have it. And this is how people take things to a whole different level. They'll go steal. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 8. There is one alone without companion. He has neither son nor brother. Yet there is no end to all his labors, nor is his eye satisfied with riches. The more you get, the more you want. Isn't it amazing? Okay? All right. Listen to this. One can desire, one can desire the good they see, or they can develop a desire for the bad. So here's my point. You have to discipline yourself to what you do with your eyes. You know, in biblical times, a man could divorce a woman if he was walking down the sidewalk and the woman looked at another man. He'd let her go. He'd drop her. No, we take it to a whole different level today. We just fight right there on the street. But the problem here is we don't sit down and examine the in-depth idea of what all three of these areas impact. When you start talking about the lust of the eyes, it has to do with what we see. Now, y'all stay with me. Don't. Y'all heard me over the years try to teach. Sometimes there are places you have to stay away from because you haven't grown to a certain level. And then it's like, you don't understand. I can go in there and not do this. No. It's not always about that. You see, the eye of your flesh is one thing. Your flesh is another. Can I explain where I'm coming from? You go in and you in good shape. You strong. You cool. But then you look at something. That's the eye of your flesh. Your literal eyes looks upon. You're in trouble now. Does everybody? You hear me? So now you better understand why Jesus said what he said. Now it sheds total different light on it, doesn't it? So even when we come before him, nobody in here is a perfect creature. But you got to be careful with what you heard tonight. And this is the part I want to make sure y'all don't leave on. Well, since I won't never become what I need to be, and all this, everybody said, no, that's that cop-out. See, what you got to stop doing, all of us, is putting ourselves in this trap that I'm in the flesh. Yes, you are in the flesh. You ain't going to get out of it till you die. But you got to make the best of it while you're in it. That's the deal. You got me? So I can't walk around and say, well, you know, I just messed up. The only reason I messed up, man, my eyes played tricks on me. Boy, y'all. Listen to this. Many of us as Christians desire for wrong things, and we are aroused by what we see. See, when you desire something wrong and then you see that which is wrong, you're in bad shape. You better off. You better off. See, you can sit down and say, I want a banana split. But what adds fuel to the fire is when you see one. With the strawberries and the nut strength. Oh, boy. And please understand, I'm not teaching you to go home and Pastor said, if I'm going to live right, I got to patch up my eyes. So you put patches on your eyes. See, stuff like that. When people take things to that level, I have a problem. Because what you have to do is just simply come to grips with yourself and realize the power of becoming disciplined. That's what, we gonna make mistakes, but at the same time, he expects us to grow. But we can't park and go, well, everybody messed up. No. You got to reach a level. Jesus never would have made that statement the way he made it for us to sit back and go, well, since Jesus said, I just looked at her. Now, he wants us to understand when we come before him, we are not perfect creatures. But I cannot come before him as the same creature I was 90 years ago when I first met him. Got me? He's expecting some growth or some change to come in my life. Matthew 5:28, look at what he said again. But I say to you, whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. See, sin starts with a plan. But you cannot go and say, well, since I had the plan, I just had to carry it out. No, dummy. You don't carry out everything you got on your heart. How many of y'all just been sitting there and said, now she bumped into me, all I push her tail down. Now you know y'all, all of us been there. Especially if there's somebody, something go wrong in a store. Ain't got nothing to do with you, but you had a thought. Child just kicking it out in the middle of the floor, kicking and screaming. And the mama saying, get up, Johnny, get up, little Johnny. Your thoughts took off. In your mind, you said, no, that ain't nothing, ain't gonna do, little Johnny. Somebody needs to come on here and whoop your behind. And what I'm thinking ain't clean. Oh, boy, y'all just... Matthew chapter 4, verses 8, 9, and 10. Now, this is the only example. We don't have time tonight to deal with it anymore. But this is when Satan came to Jesus to tempt him. And what I'm trying to get you to understand is Listen, it says, and again the devil took him up on an exceeding high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their glory. And he said to him, all these things I will give you if you will fall down and worship me. Look at what do y'all hear where we're going? All these what? Things. So guess who had to see the things? Jesus. He says, then Jesus said to him, away with you, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve. So if Satan came after Jesus with his eyes, who are you to be exempt that he ain't coming at you? See what you have to keep in mind, he showed him these things. It wasn't the showing of the things that got it. What gets you is when you start trying to compromise what it takes and you say, well, I do want those things. No. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah. Now, you know not to go that way with me, because I'm one of them kind of, I got a young one right up in here, but I'm going to break it real down nice and that. You all right, single woman's fine. All of a sudden, she sees a rated X movie. Why would you want to sit there and look at that and ain't got nobody? I mean, now, come on. I'm not going to hide no punches. That's the wrong. Why? Because what you are seeing going to get you all aroused. Come on now. See, what I'm trying to show us or teach us, get to know you to the point what you can't, and y'all heard me say this from the pulpit over and over again, get to know yourself. When you deal with you don't worry about other folk. And when people invite you places and let's go to so-and-so, find out what they're going to see. Because when you get in there, you got to go home alone. And the movie is playing in your mind. Come on now. And that's what leads us in trouble. That's where we end up falling short and sinning, because we don't deal with self. All of us are guilty. But you gotta deal with yourself. You gotta discipline yourself to simple things. Not just a movie, eating, all these crazy things we do. Down to money. You already know you ain't good with money. So you don't go nowhere near no store. Because your appetite for spending rises. And I am serious. These are areas I'm not trying to make fun of. This is how people get themselves in trouble. They'll go buy something and then turn around and say, well, the bill will wait. How dumb can you be? Because some things you go get, you don't have to have. See? So when you start talking about lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, a whole lot of things go wrong. Whole lot of things. You have to back off and say, sit down, self. Don't do that. But most of us let other people lead us in the wrong direction. And then when we get out there, they drop us. Or they turn around and say, I told you you weren't no Christian. That's what they holler. See? And I'm going to let you go home on this one. If you don't get nothing else from me, I never cover sin up. But I do tell you this much. Close your door. Don't become a person who openly allows him or herself to get in situations that you affect everybody else. Doesn't make you perfect. You ain't right. Okay? But don't do that. Don't. Because see, when you do that, you'll never win nobody else over, especially the ones that did it with you. Does everybody? Okay. We got some more examples, but not tonight. That was just the first one. I wanted to plant, because I want you all to understand Satan came to Jesus. So now who are we? Walking around town, I got the gift of tongues. What's your point? You got to watch the lust of the eyes. Okay? All right. Thank you so very much for your presence tonight.